Welcome to the deep dive. You're here because, well, you want to cut through the noise, right? Especially around Bitcoin and how this tech, Starknet, might just change everything.
Uh-huh.
Think of this as your shortcut, your cheat sheet, to understanding what could be a really massive shift in crypto.
And our goal today really is simple. We want to break down how Starknet plans to make Bitcoin, faster, cheaper,
Yeah.
and able to handle a lot more.
A whole lot more.
Exactly. All while, and this is key, sticking to Bitcoin's core principles. We're potentially talking about a future where maybe a billion people could use Bitcoin in ways we're only just starting to think about.
Okay, and we're basing this discussion on a pretty detailed article that lays out Starknet's vision for Bitcoin. So let's jump in. Bitcoin.
The OG.
Right. It's the foundation. It's all about, individual control over your money, that separation from traditional systems. It's given millions of people a real alternative.
Absolutely. Bitcoin's core thing was this decentralized, trustless money. Can't be censored. It really did change the game.
Right.
But let's be honest.
Yeah.
Most Bitcoin today, it just sits there. People buy it, sell it, hold it. The original design, amazing as it was, does have some built-in limits.
Yeah, it's seen as digital gold, basically, a store of value, which is great, but you can't really do all that much with it beyond that basic function.
And people want to. They want to use their Bitcoin, maybe put it up as collateral or earn something on it, like you can with other assets.
Right. The current Bitcoin network just doesn't make that easy. Natively, anyway.
And this is where Starknet comes into the picture. They're looking to solve some key problems. First, Bitcoin itself, its network, isn't really built for super complex applications.
Okay.
Second, a lot of the ways people try to use Bitcoin and DeFi now, well, they involve giving your Bitcoin to someone else, a custodian.
Which kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? Brings back that central point of failure.
Exactly. And we've unfortunately seen how that can go wrong, right? Think about Celsius, BlockFi, FTX. Those collapses highlighted the risks.
Big time. And then there's the practical side. Bitcoin transactions can be slow sometimes, and the fees, well, they can jump up, making it not great for, buying coffee or doing lots of small things.
Definitely hinders everyday use and more complex stuff on-chain. So, Starknet's proposal. Build a layer 2 network on top of Bitcoin.
Layer 2, okay.
Think of it like an execution layer or an express lane, specifically for Bitcoin transactions and these new applications.
And the goal there is speed.
Speed is a huge part of it. They want to crank up Bitcoin's transaction capacity, go from the current maybe 13 transactions per second to potentially thousands.
Thousands per second. That's a different world entirely. Like going from a dial-up modem to fiber optic.
Pretty much. And they talk about bringing native expressiveness to Bitcoin, but doing it at scale.
Okay. Native expressiveness. Break that down. What does that actually mean for someone holding Bitcoin?
It means you can unlock a whole new range of things you can do with your Bitcoin directly, natively. So not just sending it somewhere, but actually using it in, say, lending protocols or borrowing against it, maybe trading on decentralized exchanges, all using your actual Bitcoin without needing those middlemen we talked about.
Okay, that sounds powerful. So how does this layer 2 thing actually work? What's the tech behind it?
So the basic idea is most of the heavy lifting, the actual transaction processing, happens off the main Bitcoin chain on Starknet, this layer 2.
Okay, off-chain.
Yep. Then batches of these transactions, maybe thousands of them, get bundled together into a really compact, efficient cryptographic proof. It's called a Stark proof.
A Stark proof.
Right. And this proof acts like a verifiable summary of all those transactions. It's this summary, this proof, that gets posted and checked on the main Bitcoin blockchain, layer 1.
So you're not putting every single transaction on Bitcoin, just the proof that summarizes them.
Exactly. Saves a ton of space and processing power on the main chain.
And these Stark proofs, you mentioned them, what makes them special? Why use those?
Well, a couple of really important things. First, Starks are designed to be quantum resistant. So they're looking ahead, thinking about future security threats from quantum computers.
That's smart. Future-proofing.
Yeah. And second, they don't need what's called a trusted setup. This is a bit technical, but it basically means you don't have to trust some initial group of people who created secret parameters for the system to work.
Ah, okay. So it avoids that potential point of centralization or trust right at the beginning.
Precisely. It helps maintain that core trustless ideal that's so important to Bitcoin, even when you're doing things on Starknet.
Got it. So you get much faster transactions, much cheaper ones, potentially seconds and fractions of a cent, you said.
That's the goal, yeah. Seconds for finality, super low cost. But beyond just speed and cost, The really big unlock is that expressiveness.
Right, the ability to do more complex things.
Exactly. Starknet has smart contract capabilities, like Ethereum. This is what opens the door to doing DeFi, decentralized finance, but doing it with Bitcoin.
Okay, paint me a picture. What kind of Bitcoin DeFi are we talking about? Give me some examples.
Sure. Imagine being able to, say, deposit your Bitcoin into a protocol on Starknet and earn interest on it. Or maybe using your Bitcoin as collateral to borrow stablecoins without selling your BTC.
Okay, that's huge for holders. Yep.
Definitely. Or participating in decentralized exchanges, swapping Bitcoin for other assets directly on Starknet. Even things like yield farming strategies, which have been, pretty much impossible to do natively with Bitcoin itself.
Wow. That really does sound like it could fundamentally change how people interact with Bitcoin. What's the sort of the grand vision here, the long-term impact they're hoping for?
Look, the ambition is huge. Starknet wants to help Bitcoin scale up to be a truly global financial layer, reaching that 1 billion user goal they talk about.
A billion users.
Yeah. It's about bringing sophisticated, almost financial-grade applications and functionality to the Bitcoin network. And crucially, doing it in a way that doesn't compromise Bitcoin's core security or decentralization. Starknet itself is also on a path toward decentralization, which aligns well.
And you mentioned something about a unified blockchain ecosystem. Where does Starknet fit in there?
Right. So the idea is if Starknet can efficiently handle transactions and applications for both Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Ah, okay. Because Starknet already works with Ethereum.
Exactly. It's already a major layer 2 for Ethereum. So if it becomes an execution layer for Bitcoin too, you could potentially see much smoother, cheaper, faster interactions between the two biggest blockchain ecosystems.
Bridging the gap, potentially.
That's the vision, making it easier to move value and use applications across both networks securely.
Okay, this is a big undertaking. Why Starknet? What makes them, suited for this challenge? Do they have the chops?
Several reasons. First, they're not starting from scratch. As we said, Starknet is already live and proven on Ethereum. It's processed millions of transactions, handled like over $1 trillion in trading volume cumulatively. It's battle-tested tech.
Okay, that's significant. Proven tech.
Second, and this is pretty unique, Starknet is being built by Starkware, the company whose researchers basically invented Stark proofs.
Oh, wow. So the original creators.
Yep. They have deep, deep expertise in the core technology. And third, they seem focused on user experience too. Things like looking into native account abstraction, which could mean easier logins, maybe with fingerprint or Face ID, instead of complex seed phrases for everything.
That would certainly help adoption. Now, you mentioned some breakthrough research specific to Bitcoin coming from the Starkware team. What have they actually built or demonstrated?
Yeah, this is where it gets really cutting edge. They've developed a method called collider script. It's a clever technique to enforce certain rules, like smart contract conditions, on Bitcoin without needing a change to Bitcoin's core protocol.
So adding functionality without needing a whole network upgrade on Bitcoin.
Kind of, yeah. It enables certain types of covenants, which are essential for bridges and more complex interactions. They've used this to build a demo of a bridge covenant, basically showing a proof of concept for securely moving Bitcoin to Starknet and back.
Okay, that's cool. A demo bridge.
And maybe the biggest technical feat so far. They actually managed to verify the first ever ZK proof using their Stark technology directly on Bitcoin's test network.
On Bitcoin's testnet. Wow.
Yeah, it's a major milestone. Proves the core verification tech can work within Bitcoin's constraints.
It sounds like this isn't just a sudden idea. This has history.
Oh, definitely. The roots go way back.
Yeah.
Professor Eli Ben-Sasson, one of Starkware's co-founders, actually presented ideas about using ZK proofs for scaling Bitcoin way back at the 2013 Bitcoin conference.
2013. So over a decade ago.
Yeah. So while their initial focus shifted to scaling Ethereum, where the demand for complex applications took off first, this Bitcoin vision has always been simmering in the background.
And now, with all the renewed global interest in Bitcoin, ETFs, and so on.
The timing feels right to bring this vision to the forefront. There's just more demand now to do things with Bitcoin.
Okay, let's get practical again. Bridging. How does my Bitcoin actually get from the Bitcoin blockchain onto Starknet and then back again safely? What are the options?
Right, bridging is critical. There are a few approaches kind of evolving over time. One current or near-term option is a federated model.
Federated, meaning?
It means a group of known, trusted entities act as guardians. They hold the Bitcoin locked on the Bitcoin chain, and then issue a corresponding wrapped version of Bitcoin on Starknet.
So like WBTC on Ethereum?
Sort of similar, yeah.
Yeah.
The upside is it can be pretty user-friendly, maybe lower fees initially. The downside is, well, you have to trust that federation of signers.
Right. That trust element might not sit well with Bitcoin purists who value complete self-custody and trustlessness.
Exactly. So that leads to exploring more decentralized options. One is called BitVM. It's a newer concept designed to enable more secure bridging without requiring changes to Bitcoin, specifically without needing something called OPCAT yet.
BitVM, okay. How does that work, roughly?
It uses a system of challenges and responses, kind of like a dispute game, backed by cryptographic proofs.
Yeah.
The cool part is that it aims to be secure as long as there's at least one honest participant involved in overseeing the bridge, much less trust involved in a federation.
Interesting. Still sounds complex, but definitely more aligned with decentralization. And then you mentioned OPCAT.
Yeah, OPC is kind of the next frontier. It's a proposed upgrade to Bitcoin itself. A small change, really, but it would re-enable certain scripting capabilities that would make building things like trustless bridges much, much easier.
So OPCAT is a potential Bitcoin upgrade.
Yes, it would allow for more sophisticated covenants directly on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin adopts OPCAT, that's the real game changer for Starknet's vision.
Why? What does OPCAT enable specifically for this bridge?
It would allow Starknet to build a fully native bridge, one where you could move your Bitcoin to Starknet and back without relying on any external federation or complex dispute games like BitVM.
Completely trustless.
Essentially, yes. It
Yeah.
would maximize security and self-custody, operating just based on the rules enforced by the Bitcoin and Starknet protocols themselves. That's kind of the ultimate goal.
Okay, that makes sense. Native trustless bridging. So, where are we now? What's actually happening on the ground to make this real?
Things are moving. For instance, Xverse, which is a pretty popular Bitcoin wallet,
Yeah, I know Xverse.
they're integrating Starknet support. That's a big step, letting users interact with Starknet applications directly using their Bitcoin assets managed through Xverse.
Okay, so the wallet infrastructure is starting to connect.
Exactly. And the Starknet Foundation is kicking off something called BTC-Fi season.
BTCC-Fi season. Sounds catchy. What is it?
It's basically a program with incentives, opportunities, designed to encourage Bitcoin holders like you to actually try using your Bitcoin in these emerging DeFi applications on Starknet. Get people comfortable with it.
So trying to bootstrap activity makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Plus, Starkware itself is showing commitment by holding some of its own treasury reserves in Bitcoin. A strategic Bitcoin reserve, they call it, putting their money where their mouth is.
That's a strong signal.
And there are other interesting integrations too, like the Bravos wallet on Starknet, now allowing users to pay Lightning Network invoices using STRK, Starknet's token.
Oh, interesting. So bridging Starknet into the existing Bitcoin Lightning payment network.
Kind of linking them, yeah. Shows they're thinking about the broader Bitcoin ecosystem, and they're actively partnering with other Bitcoin wallets, researchers, builders, trying to foster collaboration.
So building bridges, both technically and socially.
You could say that.
Yeah.
We should also expect to see new products, maybe more retail-friendly offerings, designed to make it easier for everyday folks to get involved. And behind the scenes, they'll keep pushing the research, advocating for things like OPCAT, and refining the Stark-proof tech for Bitcoin.
Okay, so a lot happening on multiple fronts. Let's try and wrap things up then. What's the main takeaway for listeners? If they remember one thing about Starknet and Bitcoin, what should it be?
I think the core message is Starknet has this really ambitious but technically grounded plan to help Bitcoin break through its current limitations, to scale it up massively and add a whole new layer of functionality through Layer 2 tech.
So potentially unlocking Bitcoin's potential beyond just being digital gold.
Exactly. And the vision is that this could lead to a more unified blockchain world, connecting Bitcoin and Ethereum, and ultimately giving you faster, cheaper, more powerful ways to use your Bitcoin.
Without giving up the security and decentralization that make Bitcoin, well, Bitcoin.
That's the promise. It really does make you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What would a truly scalable, truly expressive Bitcoin network mean for the future of finance, for individual economic power? It's a pretty compelling thought to chew on.
It really is. And look, if you want to explore this more actively, there are things you can do now. Maybe set up a Starknet wallet, keep an eye on that BTC-Fi season, see what opportunities pop up.
Dip your toes in.
Yeah, or just browse some of the existing apps on Starknet to get a feel for the kind of things that might soon be possible with Bitcoin there. If you're a developer, definitely check out the Starknet documentation.
Good resources.
And for everyone, probably the easiest way to stay updated is just To follow Starknet on X, formerly Twitter. They post updates pretty regularly.
Great suggestions. A lot to think about and a lot to potentially watch unfold. Thanks for breaking that all down.
My pleasure. It's exciting stuff.